only a savvy few are really following this story, it's packed with mystery, and fewer still understand the devastating ramifications of this story being fully solved. This story, or the mystery, is the FBI's involvement on January 6th at the Capitol. The episode from which the FBI then used as a cover to try and squash completely the entire MAGA movement, to dismiss it as this ragtag, anarchic, violent, thoroughly backwards group. Of course, the FBI failed in this, and we have discussed before how Inspector General Michael Horowitz showed the FBI admitting to undercover agents being present at J6. Up to 26 undercover FBI assets were in the midst of the riot, unpaid ostensibly, and given clearance to go into restricted areas without consequences. The biggest point of intrigue and mystery, though, happens outside of the madness at the Capitol, as we focus in on what was happening outside the DNC that day, on the man that allegedly planted a pipe bomb at DNC headquarters. Our friends at Revolver News revealed that the FBI has the footage of the suspect planting a pipe bomb, but has refused to release the full extent of this footage or any details about this man at all. Here's a clip from the summary put together from Revolver regarding the missing footage.
Camera 1 shows the pipe bomber walking up to the DNC grounds at roughly 7:40 p.m. He sits on bench 1. Then he gets up and walks off screen. According to the FBI, he walks the length of the DNC building, and 10 minutes later, he comes back to the same bench area and sits on bench 2. There, at 7:52 p.m., camera 2 captures the pipe bomber sitting on bench 2 and, we are told, planting the pipe bomb by the side of the bench, next to the bush. We are told the pipe bomber plants the pipe bomb there, but we can't see it. Camera 2 is occluded by a giant bush that blocks the scene. The pipe bomber even looks at camera 2 head-on, for some reason. It's very frustrating, because we can't see the moment the pipe bomber plants the pipe bomb, but the FBI can. That's because the whole scene should be captured on camera 1 as well, and much more clearly than camera 2. Camera 1 has a clear shot of both benches. If the FBI released the full tape from camera 1, we could see the pipe bomber planting the bomb. Why is the FBI hiding the security footage from camera 1 of the pipe bomber at bench 2? Do they not want us to see the full scene? Isn't there a $100,000 reward? Don't they want our help to catch this guy?
Our friend Mike Benz has poured over this pipe bomber story, unlike anyone out there, which is saying a lot. Hundreds of hours dissecting the video to solve the mystery of who this pipe bomber is. And upon the FBI's most recent release of tapes, Benz made this shocking discovery, that the FBI seems to have blocked out or at least altered the footage. But at the very least, they seem to have blocked out the eyes of the bomber and blurred or blocked any biometrically identifiable information on the subject. So why would they do this? The begged question leads to a seemingly obvious answer if you don't trust the FBI, but Executive Director of the Foundation for Freedom Online, Mike Benz himself, joins us now with some updates and context. Mike, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Chanel.
Your tweet got a lot of attention, rightfully so. Lay out for our viewers what you were noticing when this first tranche came out.
Well, you have a situation here where the FBI released these 2 sets of video files in March 2021 and August 2021. They then refused to update their video library with the pipe bomber information for 3.5 years. It was not until these new files released this week are the first time in 3.5 years the FBI has released even a single new update on the pipe bomber, despite having something like 39,000 video files that they said they had compiled from all the different ring cameras and surveillance, street surveillance tapes from the pipe bomber walking around on foot for 90 minutes, effectively between 7:30 and 9 p.m. On a weekday in the middle of Washington, D.C. in Capitol Heights. I mean, this is home court. Everything about the pipe bomber story defies everything we've ever been told about the panopticon surveillance state we live in. But I've been tracking these pipe bomber videos since the day they came out, and there was always problems with all of them. The initial
Right.
videos, had them starting with the pipe bomber already on screen, and then the video would cut before the pipe bomber left. So it was very clear we were not getting the entire tape, despite this supposed to be the most wanted man in the world. I mean, this guy could still be out there. These are two weapons of mass destruction. This is what the technical name for a pipe bomb is. And we don't know the age. We don't know the race. We don't know we don't know any identifiable details. We have not a single skin cell or hair follicle has been recovered from all the surfaces this person touched. The phone calls the FBI turned out lied about. They said the data was corrupted. It just came out 2 weeks ago. Turns out the phone company said when we sent them the phone files on the pipe bomb suspect, they were not corrupted. So if they are corrupted, it's because the FBI corrupted them. But here, what I show in this video is that the FBI lowered the frame rate from what is typically 30 to 60 frames per second down to just 1 frame per second in the release footage. And that makes it so that there's only a handful of still frames that the public has access to, as opposed to continuous motion video. And there's about
And this was so clear in that video you shared.
Oh, I ran it through all these, heat map tests. I ran it through. I handed off to technical people. What's so terrifying is there's one DNC video that's only 20 feet away from the pipe bomber. That is just basically a 3-point shot in basketball. It's the sort of thing where you might not be able to see the eyes from a distance, but being able to zoom even a very gentle amount, you should be able to see the eyes with crystal clarity. And I remember when I put that into the video editor thinking, we finally got this guy, because I'll be able to zoom. This thing's only 20 feet away. You can already make out other aspects of the apparel and the facial line. This is going to be easy.
Right,
and then
right.
Zooming in and encountering this hard blur right over the eyes and thinking, oh my God,
It's so obvious.
there's no way. That's impossible. And then you click to the next frame, and the blur not only follows, but it smudges. They were so sloppy with it that the blur bar actually smudges over the hoodie at one point. So you can imagine
Well, apparently they got lazy too with the frame rates. You mentioned this too. You said that they had to adjust the frame rate so there were less frames to have to blur out. By making it a slightly faster frame rate, you don't have as many slides to blur out for the eyes.
Right. Now, Chanel, think of this. Watergate happened because of a break-in of the DNC building. The average 7-Eleven has a security camera that's between 30 to 60 frames per second. Let's just say, imagine for a moment that the party headquarters of the Democrat Party has given the history of break-ins to the DNC building, i.e. the greatest, most scandal in U.S. presidential history, Watergate happened to the DNC building. I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's not crazy to assume they have at least a 7-Eleven, style quality security camera. If they did, that would mean that all of those blur errors that I found just in 4 frames, imagine how gross that would get when you need to make continual adjustments over the course of 240 frames if it was 60 frames per second. Or 120 frames.
Right.
You need to make all those continuous corrections one by one, 120 to 240 times just to blur the eyes every time. And that's just on camera 1. They did the same eye blur to the walking away shot on camera 2, which is when as the pipe bomber is walking towards the camera, the field of vision remains clear, the apparel remains clear. The only thing that gets blurry is a giant bar right over the eyes. And look, the answer is if you have someone's eyes, you have every criminal in this country and every military service person in this country has their eyes scanned. And by the way, and that was before last year when they started doing the automatic eyeball scanning for the TSA every time you do even domestic travel now. So the eyeballs are the key to the identity. Even in Afghanistan, Marines were doing eyeball scans of the entire population so that you could pick someone's ID out of a photograph if they were protesting or if they were in a meeting. So they can't let us have the eyes, and it's clear they can't let us. It's because they can't let us have the ID.
And so it begs the question of why cannot they let us know who did this? Trump has already said he believes the FBI knows the identity of this person, this pipe bomber. And for the FBI to go at such lengths to apparently mess with the footage to ensure that no one can identify this person, why would they go to such lengths to protect someone like this?
Well, there's only two reasons, and both of them are so damning that that people need to be arrested. One is that the person who planted the pipe bomb is a federal agent, federal informant, or federal asset, and the second is the person who planted it is a patsy, but was working with or encouraged by a federal agent or informant or asset. In either case, it's federal foreknowledge. In either case, it completely devastates the entire. It inverts. I mean, it in one fell swoop turns the insurrection into a fedsurrection with no more questions asked. So that's why this has to be the most tightly guarded secret. That's why I mean, we've only scratched the surface with all the other things. You know, the between the phone data, between narrowing down to a single subject, between them having the Metro card and the license plate number, and then having FBI agents waved off, turnover in terms of who was actually overseeing the case. But yeah, the fact is this was the event that set off the whole thing. The first pipe bomb was discovered at 12:48 p.m. It was 1 minute later, just 1 minute later, at 12:49 p.m., when the Penn Walkway entrance of the Capitol was attacked for the first time, when the breach started, within 1 minute of the discovery of the first pipe bomb, which was 3 blocks away. This is why Stephen Son, the Capitol Police Chief, said the purpose of the pipe bombs were purposely planted as a decoy in order to divert the Capitol Police resources so that they were understaffed and overwhelmed at the moment of the breach.
Our government's not known to pull antics like that, Mike, are they?
Well, that would explain the earpieces. I
cannot wait for Kash Patel to take over the DOJ.
No, me too. Yes, if that happens, if he's allowed through the Senate, I don't have faith that many of these files are still unpurged, but you could simply run the deck on who were all the supervising agents on the case and bring them in for depositions. Everyone who touched that pipe bomber case at the FBI needs to be brought in, and above Kash Patel's level. By the way, this is why I was encouraged about Matt Gaetz, and I'm optimistic about Pam Bondi, but I'm not as sure as I was with Matt Gaetz. The fact is the way to really get the bird singing here is everyone involved in this pipe bomb case from the FBI side has to be hauled up by this Justice Department and themselves put in the hot seat, themselves subpoenaed and deposition and put under oath in terms of everything that went on, not just at the level of the video files, but at the actual. We need a timeline chronology of the FBI investigation itself, including all the names of the agents who worked on the case and the actions they took over the course of it.
That's right. And call me a skeptic or a realist or whatever, but I am very pessimistic at the notion that any incriminating material that could be out there exists. I would imagine that a lot of the stuff is destroyed. I don't have a lot of faith in the integrity of this agency, of the FBI, especially at the top levels. And so what you laid out there are pretty solid ways to get around any scenarios where a lot of this evidence has already been destroyed behind the scenes. But
well, Chanel, Benz, it took us 8 years to get Osama bin Laden, so maybe it'll only take us 4 years to get the plan.
Mike Benz, always a pleasure. We're all out of time, but looking forward to seeing you soon.
All right, thanks, Chanel. Talk soon.